Aubrey Kundrell in 6th. Brian Long in 7th. Will Coffey's going to be sitting in the 8th spot. In the 9th spot, Tyler Davila. Justin Barrera in the 10th spot. Jamie Southwell in 11th. And Carlos Lopez Jr. in the 12th spot.
In your GT3 category, Augustine Castro takes the pole position. Christian Grisco in 2nd place. Andrew, the 27, McLaren in 3rd. Justin in 4th. Diego Airy 5th. Bradley Alvis 6th. Matthew Duda in 7th place. Jake Luther 8th. Stephen Koshko 9th. And Dominic Angelico rounds out your top 10. Just wait to get ready to go racing here today, Mike. Now, Mike, what do we think we're going to see here? We're going to see a little bit of a delayed start, and what I mean by that, we're going to see a little bit of caution at the start of the race. We're going to see a little bit more excitement. How do you think the drivers are going to take the challenge of Spa here today?
There's no telling sometimes. I mean, sometimes the guys get a little froggy and they want to go crazy into turn 1, and La Source here. Turn 1 is pretty tight, especially with the GT3 cars. They don't stick completely good on that inside line, and one can push out and just ruin your race right there. But here we go for the start. Go ahead and take them away, Seb.
So we get ready to go racing here at Spa for round 4 of the WSRL Championship. It's a great start from your LMP2 leaders. It's the 1-1-7 Shane Larson in the lead. He is down onto the brakes. What has happened to Luke? Man, I wonder. He was our pole sitter. Nowhere to be found at the moment. Sorry, I say we're at the start. Of course, we're not at the start. Rookie error by me. Now we're under racing. And now we get going, and it's a great start from Shane Larson. Last week's race winner, Arnold in 2nd, hustling and hassling him through Eau Rouge over the top of Radion. Now down the back straight, we head towards Le Com for the first time. Shane Larson goes defensive. We're almost 3 wide as we have Meisel now getting involved in the action, but it's Larson who leads. Arnold in 2nd place and Sam Miesel in 3rd. Good start there from our LMP2 runners, all looking fairly decent and not too many incidents whatsoever. Luke Mann is now out of the pits, but I wonder, Mike, I mean, he was our... Oh, sorry, so just to cut there, I think Davala and Kundal have come together at some point through the lap. I think that's it, Bruxelles corner. But man, what has happened to him? He was our pole sitter, and he was nowhere to be found at the start.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he had, as we were talking last week about maybe having some connection issues. I don't know. I didn't see anything going on. But here we are back in our GT3 class coming through for that first half a lap. Agustin Castro out in front. Agustin's been having a rough season so far, but it's good to see him on the pole and starting to pull away already. He's got Justin Hall in that 2nd spot, about a half second back. And Andrew Garjic in the 3rd spot. Bradley Alvis in 4th, and Diego Airy running in 5th. That's a whole pack of cars, about 8 cars long right now. They're stringing away, and they're starting to pull away from that 9th spot of Dominique Angelico.
Superb start, as you're right, from Augustine Castro, I should say, through Campus, now through Savalo onto the back straight for the first time. Jurachetsky, Letsky, Robinson and Michael, I think, have had some form of issue on the opening lap. We'll keep you up to date with any form of incidents that are happening surrounding that. On board at the moment with the number 7, Justin Hall, trying to go through Blanchemont easily flat in these GT3 cars. He uses a little bit of curb on the outside. A little bit of lifting and coasting, actually, from our 2nd place driver. Just building up, I think, not wanting to attack Castro at the moment. Mike, would you agree? Sort of just fuel saving, and I mean, it's going to be a strategic race tonight, isn't it?
Absolutely. As we were talking earlier, it is going to be a strategic race. And any chance that you can save fuel on this track, drafting somebody down the back straightaway or whatever, it's going to mean less time in your pit stop. So if you're going to have to make multiple pit stops, if you can save a half second to a second in a pit, that's a whole lot of ground on the track that you can take over or, undercut or overcut somebody on that pit stop.
Shane Larson, currently your race leader in LMP2. The gap is now 0.4 of a second. Larson coming under more pressure than he did 1 week ago at Belle Isle. He had a comfortable victory. He was almost surprised by that when we spoke to him in the after race interviews. Larson coming through the Fanya chicane. Colin Arnold in second place. They're all at one position from where they started, but that's all just due to the fact that Luke Mann didn't start the race. He is currently, where is he on our timing screens? Don't quite see him. He's in 37th place at the moment. Luke Mann still lapping away, just anywhere remotely near the back of the LMP2 field. So what is happened to Luke Mann? We'll have to see. Colin Arnold, again, easily flat through Blanchimont, now gaining on Shane Larson, trying to go to the outside line, forces Larson to defend to the inside. Larson a little bit deep, actually, into the braking zone of the bus stop. Arnold almost seizing upon the opportunity, but still cannot find a way through. Colin Arnold in second. Third place at the moment is Meisel as we break for turn one. Arnold going through. He is in second place, but Meisel is looking pretty quick at the moment. He's looking like sort of almost the dark horse in this race, Mike. You know, he's not using up his tyres at the moment to fight for the lead. He's sort of just staying back, saving fuel. I think he could be a major player in this race today.
No, absolutely. As we've been talking this whole time, it's all strategy. And a large, long track like this can be very strategic as he's looking for an outside move coming into Lacombe's. And he does take over the lead. Car number 72 now out in front. Colin Arnold and Larson dropping back to second. But back in the GT3 class, it looks like we may have a lead change back there. Oh, and it looks like we may even have a crash back here. We might want to jump back to the GT3 leaders, Justin Hall and Agustin Castro.
Yeah, what has gone on here? Chris Fass is your race leader at the moment, so major shakeup in the GT3 field into turn one. Chris Fass defending, almost crashing into one of the Audis at the moment. Dominic Angelico just tucking in behind the 11 LMP2. That's Tyler Devala. Devala caught up in a lap one incident. As we now head down, Andrew Chorochetsky is your race leader, and I'm a little bit confused at the moment, Mike, by what's going on with the timing page. So let's just bring you a little bit of an updated standings and let you know where everybody is. So Shane Larson is your current LMP2 race leader. Justin Hall leads in the GT3 class. We see on your screen at the moment Andrew Chorochetsky. He's coming into the braking zone of the bus stop chicane. Now exiting, a little bit of traffic in his way. That's your race leader that you can just see in the forefront of your shot. Arnold in the lead now. Shane Larson second. Samuel Meisel in third. I do apologise for stuttering over your name, Samuel. Chorochetsky now coming through turn one. So Justin Hall in GT3, Castro in second, and Gardja in third. This is Luke Mann. I just can't get over it. Can't get over it, Mike. You know, he was the pole sitter. He's had some issues, and he's just nowhere already. We've got 50 minutes of racing to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of bewildered by it right now, but I mean, just the lap that he just turned, a 2:02.2, and that's fastest lap of the race right now. So he has the pace to run. So I'm really curious if it was just a connection issue or what. He went to load in and maybe he just, you know, had the packet loss and fell out of the race. There's no telling. But I mean, he's around here lapping around faster than Arnold is right now. So I don't know. He may end up having to try to play a real weird strategy game just to get back on the field.
You talk about, you know, strategy. We've got pit stops here tonight. What do you think he could do? Do you think it's about coming in early or trying the really extreme fuel-saving strategy? Or do you think he just needs to try something different? It doesn't matter what it is. It just needs to be different to the rest of the pack.
That's all you can do is try something different. Because if you keep doing the same thing that everybody else is, you're just going to end up in the same spot. So if you go and fuel save just an excessive amount, you have to watch how much it is because your lap times are going to drop when you're fuel saving. So you have to keep that balance of what's going to be, you know, what's going to make you gain to the leaders and maybe cut out an extra fuel stop. That's going to be the end goal, is to try to cut out one fuel stop, because it's probably be about a 30-second time at least to come down the pit lane. So that's, you know, what, a quarter of a lap for these guys? That's quite a bit of a time.
On your screen at the moment, the LMP2 race leader. Shane Larson coming in to turn one behind Arnold. Arnold made that move earlier on in the race into Lecombe. Larson almost not really minding too much at the moment, sort of just sticking behind Arnold, maybe saving a little bit of fuel up Eau Rouge into Radion, one of the best corners I think in motorsports as a whole. Such an iconic corner. Now we're diving down towards Lecombe. Larson in the slipstream, pulls to the inside. I think we're going to have another change for the lead. Arnold not really fighting it too hard, just almost seems a little bit tactical at the moment. Larson was 5/10 quicker than Arnold on that previous lap, but I think Larson must have gotten off track because it's not showing as the official fastest lap. But it just seems at the moment, Mike, that Larson and Arnold are playing a little bit of a almost a team game, just slipstreaming off each other, taking in turns to lead and just trying to get past or get away, I should say, from Meisel in third.
Yeah, I mean, and that's easily to do. If you could get in your own draft with one other person and just keep alternating back and forth, it will actually pull you away from that guy that's behind you because he's starting to fall away now. He's what, a second and a half behind Arnold. And that's just enough to barely get a draft. But if you're not close enough, you're not able to gain any ground on him at all. But Larson is definitely laying it down right now, and Arnold is basically just following him in his shadow as they're coming around. It looks like they're coming up on a lap car already, coming up through Blanchimont.
And that's Braden Carroll at the wheel of that Mercedes that we just see. Larson going to have to dive to the inside. Arnold thinks twice about the move. Thankfully so. I think we've just seen a humongous accident at the Blanchimont corner. Arnold, though, held up by the GT3 traffic. A little bit of understeer he encounters on the braking zone into the bus stop. Larson, though, exchanges that with a little bit of oversteer on the exit. It's almost honours even in terms of little bits of mistake. Larson, a 10th actually slower. Sorry, I take that back. He was 9/10 quicker than Arnold on that previous lap. Larson again a little bit squirrely on the exit of turn one. That won't be helping his tyre wear one bit. Arnold now got the advantage. We head up Eau Rouge towards Radion. A little bit of a lift there actually on board the 72, just not wanting to wash out wide. These cars are impacted, I should say, by dirty air, consideration that the drivers have to make. Arnold, though, in the slipstream. Larson goes defensive. Instead of
And
Arnold
lives.
capitalizing and lives, it sounded, Mike, like Arnold lifted off the throttle there. Arnold is again, oh, he's in the wall! A second place man, Colin Arnold. Was that a mechanical failure? Because he just seemed to just go into the wall.
Yeah, I don't know without being looking on the outside of it, but man, he came down and just started lifting as they came into Lacombs, and he looked everything good, and all of a sudden the car just turned. I'm wondering if he had a mechanical issue. As we're in car, you could hear him shifting, and nothing's going on. So I'm wondering if he's having problems with his wheelbase or something because he's not even resetting at all. He's still sitting there. So right now, you still have Shane Larson out in front, but Arnold dropping down out. That's going to put Samuel Measle up into the third spot now. Um, in the GT3 class, though, it looks like we're going to have Justin Hall out in front now. Looks like he took it over a couple laps ago from Agustin Castro. Your top two cars in the GT3 class are being shown about a half second apart. And Andrew still sitting in that third spot. Stephen Koshko running in fourth, with Jake Luther being shown in the fifth spot in the GT3 class.
Nick Edby, I think, and Luke Mann, both drivers in the LMP2 class, falling down the order at the moment. Not quite sure what has happened to those two drivers. You're very rightly point out, though, Mike. Shane Larson is your LMP2 race leader. Justin Hall in second, and Colin Arnold finally recovers to the pit. So he went in to Lecombe, and it almost seemed like the wheel just disconnected. He turned hard right, ended up in the barrier on the outside of the second corner of the the Lecombe complex. So that is unfortunately his race done and dusted. Colin Arnold will be gutted about that. He was actually on the track for quite some time, posing a little bit of a danger to the other cars surrounding him. Nobody thankfully made contact with him, so we're all good on that front. Actually, in fact, Colin Arnold now, his connection dropped, so maybe it was a connection issue. Either way, he'll be absolutely gutted
Uh,
after this one. Had the pace, didn't he, Mike?
Oh, he did for sure, and it looked like he was just in cruise mode, able to just coast and draft, and he had a good game plan going, and then just something just went south. There's no telling. But looking at the leaderboard right now, you've got Braden Carroll in the 74 car in the GT3 car. He started from pit lane, and he's already up 9 spots, and we're barely 10 minutes into the race. So Braden's been on the move right now and might be a factor later on to get into the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, really interesting to see. We're only 16 minutes into this race so far, so lots of racing to come. We've got pit stops, we've got a lot. So, certainly one to stick around. I think we're having a few technical issues on the broadcast at the moment, so please stick around. We're doing our absolute best to recover it and bring you back live pictures. Not much going on at the track at the moment. I see a Ferrari, though, in the pits. Who is that? Trying to look at my timing tower. Not quite sure, but pit stops starting to happen around here. Shane Larson still leads in the LMP2 field. Justin Hall still leads in the GT3. Tell you what, you know, oh, sorry, Justin Barrera, he's up 7 places from where he started. He's currently third in the LMP2 field. So great start by Justin Barrera. Finished second at last week's Belle Isle Grand Prix. So, Barrera really having a good turn of form at the moment.
Yeah, no, he's definitely on an upswing because he had early on in the season he had a few little incidents to knock him down the pedestal just a little bit, but he's going to try to carry that momentum from Detroit and get up there and be on that podium again. He did a great drive. He was real quiet that whole time in Detroit. We didn't even know he was there until the end, and we look at the leaderboard and he was sitting in second. So it was a great drive from Justin that last race.
I mean, superb. I mean, to be honest, it was a great race from everybody involved, everybody that survived, everybody that managed to even do a lap around there has my utmost respect. Such a difficult track, and honestly, Spa isn't that much easier. It hasn't got the walls surrounding the track, but it's got lots of danger and jeopardy thrown in for good measure. We watch the race at the moment. Your leaders still remain the same. Augustine Castro not really able to keep up with the pace with Justin Hall. Augustine second, Justin Hall in the lead. So it's sort of all just almost like a stalemate out there at the moment as we just continue lapping away. And I think at the moment, actually, as I say that, Will Coffrey, I do believe, is dropping down the order. Mike, he might have had some form of issue out on the track, but talk us through the mindset of the drivers at the moment. We survived the first sort of opening crazy few laps, and now what are the drivers doing? Are they saving fuel? Are they saving tires? Or is it a little bit of both?
If I was running right now, and I was in a freight train with the guys, I would save as much fuel as I can. As I was saying earlier, your pit stops, if you can get an extra half second to a second in a pit stop, that is, how many meters on a track, and you can get ahead of somebody, you can overcut or undercut somebody out on the track, and you can gain spots just by saving that extra half second or second in pit lane. We've done that on multiple endurance races that I've done with another team. Is go complete fuel save, but you can also go longer stints, and maybe cut out a fuel stop in like the LMP class because they're going to be coming through here for what, probably 4 stops. I've never driven an LMP, so I'm not sure how much fuel saving you could do to save that extra stop. But in the GT3 class, you're going to be stuck with just doing 2 stops in this race.
You were talking, Mike, we've had some major news in the LMP2 field. Samuel Meisel, he was battling at the front, the 88 car, the one that I mentioned earlier on that could be a dark horse in this race. Well, he's come a cropper at somewhere on the circuit. He's returned to the pits, and I can say that that car looks a very sorry state. It's crabbing. He's almost unable to get it around the pit lane, a really tight pit lane as they sort of transition from the Grand Prix circuit to the more endurance style pit lane. So Meisel into the pits. He'll be able to take a fast repair, but Meisel's race just not going how he would have wanted to. He's falling, he's losing so much time. He's falling, I think he's actually fallen off the lead lap. So heartbreak for the ATA LMP2. Justin Barrera now up into second place. Jamie Southwell in third. Both Barrera and Southwell are up 8 places from where they started. So it's been an absolutely dream race for those two. less so for Meisel, and of course Luke Mann and Colin Arnold as well. So a real two tails around Spa at the moment. 21 minutes of the race has gone so far. Meisel now out of the pits, Mike, but you know, you're talking about strategy, and if you are Samuel Meisel, it's absolutely thrown that sort of to the wayside now. He's had this incident, he's had to come into the pits, get it repaired, and I mean, how difficult is it as a driver to have to rethink your strategy on the fly? Because it's not like real racing when they have a team behind them that can tell them the strategy. You have to do all of this in the car while driving around Spa.
Yeah, it's pretty much a kick to the gut when you make a mistake or something happens and you have to tow back the pit lane, or you come in like Meisel was and it was just crabbing in. So you have to wait for it to get prepared, and then it's like then you have to regather yourself and try to not think about that mistake. As we're sitting on board with Aubrey Kundrell, it's going to be coming up through Eau Rouge right now, lapping that GT3 car, but he's right behind Barrera. So this is a battle for third and fourth right now with the lap car in between. They're able to get by that lap car good as they come up the Kemmel straight. And let's see if Aubrey can get a little bit of a draft to start closing in on Justin. Justin goes on the inside to go on that defense. And Justin lifts completely, it looks like. I don't know if he was letting him by or if he's on that fuel saving mode.
Yeah, really interesting. Jamie Southwell's gotten past Barrera, so Barrera coming under pressure, already lost a position from only a few minutes ago when I last checked the standings. Kundell at the moment actually now ahead of Barrera. I do apologise, getting all mixed up in the commentary box. So Barrera's race unfolding a little bit at this stage. He's now only up 6 places. I'm sure he'll be absolutely thrilled about that, but a little bit disheartened over the last few laps. Head through Pouon, a great corner, really stresses these cars. I mean, if you haven't driven Spa, which I'm not sure many people have at this point, I recommend doing it. You can see why every driver, every real life driver that you talk to says that Spa is one of, if not the favorite track of theirs, because it's so good. It's difficult, but it's well worth the time and energy to learn it and learn its intricacies as well.
And it's such a rhythm track too. Once you get into a groove and into a rhythm, it's the most awesome feeling. This track is probably one of my favorite endurance tracks, just because you get into that kind of groove, and it's just, I mean, I ran a 3-hour stint in the 24 hours, and it just got into that nice rhythm, and it just kept flowing and flowing.
You're right, it really is a rhythm track. Into the pits now comes Justin Barrera. He's decided that the time is now for a pit stop. Actually, Shane Larson, Jamie Southwell, Aubrey Kundell, and Will Coffrey as well, all coming into the pit. So it seems like we are now in the LMP2 pit stop window. They'll just be taking fuel. I doubt we'll see any tyre changes in this race tonight. Currently, we're having a look at Augustine Castro. He's your second place man. Justin Hall just up ahead of him in the number 7 BMW. So it's BMW and BMW 1-2 at the moment. They're really showing their pace at the moment as we see Augustine Castro now come on to the back straight. A little bit of traffic up ahead of them. But Mike, if you are Augustine at the moment, you're in second. You're currently sort of being gapped by Justin Hall by around sort of 5/10 a lap. What do? Do you sort of concede the battle for first, stay in second, and just sort of hope Hall has an issue? Or do you really try and sort of make the race? You try and sort of play a strategic blinder, as it were, and try and get ahead of him?
I think at this point, Augustine Castro has been racing long enough, and he knows the game. And I think that he'll be able to just pace with them. You don't want to burn your tires up. You don't want to kill your car. You don't want to get off-track penalties. You just want to stay in close proximity. And if you're able to get in there, as we were talking with strategy, get in there and draft a little bit, save some fuel, you might be able to jump over him when you go into the first pit stop. You never know what's going on. As you see Andrew Garjic running in the 27 car, he's got that McLaren running really good in the top 3 right now. We've seen Andrew struggle on a couple of the other races so far, but it's good to see a couple new faces up towards the top with Augustine and Andrew up top. But, one of the things that I noticed in the Discord this week, Seb, was that 499 is actually offering an award this year. After beginning this race, you get safety, or excuse me, I'm just struggling all over my words right now. So many things going on at one time. But there's a safe driver award, And it starts at this race, and you must attend all the races, the remaining 5 races. And the guy that is the safest through all the rest of the races is going to get 15 bucks back. And second place is going to get $10. And that's all brought by the 499 racing team. So, I mean, it's pretty awesome to be able to have a team actually put up some extra cash like that for these guys to push for. It may not always be the guy that wins the race or even on the podium. It could be the guy that's running the 10th spot, but he's the guy that keeps it on the track, doesn't get off tracks, doesn't run into anybody. He might be the guy that takes home that extra cash.
Well, there's almost a collision in the pits. Talking about safe driving, certainly almost wasn't safe into the pit lane. So pit stop window now definitely open. We've had the LMP2 pitting 1 lap ago. It's now the GT3's turn. Joshua Benjamin coming into the pits. Going back to your point, Mike, really interesting to hear, about drivers offering, or a team, sorry, offering a safest driver award. Really, it has worked in other leagues that I've been a part of. Almost just sort of incentivizing people to drive a little bit safer can really, improve the driving standards. Another way that I've seen other leagues go is awarding extra bonus points based on who had the few incidents. Barrera through turn 1, almost clipping the wall. I had a little bit of I think, netcode damage in my ear. So Barrera really cutting a fine line at the moment into turn 1. He won't really be wanting to do that too many times during the race. Leaving a little bit of margin on the table can be very helpful in the long run. Barrera, though, in 4th place. It's Larson, Kundell, Long in 3rd. Make that 2nd place. What has happened to Brian Long? Mike, I don't quite remember seeing him on the timing stands a few laps ago, and he's rocketed now up into 2nd place. He must have had an absolutely rapid pit stop.
Brian is pretty cagey. I've raced with him for a while as well. Quite a few of these guys in this league I've been able to the pleasure to race with, and Brian is pretty cagey. So Lord knows what he may have done. He may have been short fueled just to get out real quick, to get out in front of these guys. You never know, but it's still a 20-second gap back to Larson right now. So Shane's really pulling away from these guys. So I don't know if something happened with the rest of the guys. You had Arnold that was right there behind him for a while, and also Measle. So that was 2nd and 3rd for the longest time. So, I'm not sure what the heck happened to Brian.
Yeah, we'll keep you up to date about that. So, Agustin Castro managed to go an extra lap in GT3. If you remember correctly, he was in 2nd place, went for an extra lap. We'll see if that impacts his race results. I was saying, Mike, a few laps ago, he's surely got to try something different, and it looks like he's fuel saved, gone an extra lap. Justin Hall coming through campus at the moment into Stavelot down the back straight, so he's not too far off overtaking Castro again. It's worth noting, in fact, that, as I alluded to earlier on in commentary, this is the full endurance pit lane, so you've got to go all the way down the Grand Prix circuit. Actually, a great spot there. You see Agustin Castro having to sort of thread the needle around the inside of turn 1 and down to the endurance pits as well. So it's a really long pit lane. It's about 1.5 minutes, in fact. So, it's not like a standard racetrack where you lose 20 or 30 seconds. It's a real big time loss. And, Mike, if you end up having a drive-through penalty for track limits violations or something like that, it can really cost your race.
Oh, it's almost a full lap. By the time that you start in that pit lane, go all the way through the little hairpin in turn 1, come all the way down, and then you have to exit all the way through a Rouge, and you're not even fully onto the track until you get all the way back to Kemmel Straight. I mean, it's a huge pit lane. As you see, Agustin Castro rejoining the race right now, and he's going to come out still about 2 seconds behind your leader as he gets on the straight. But Justin Hall is going to have that good long run down the straightaway to actually pull away. And here comes Duder in the 3rd spot. Duder about 4 seconds back. So it looks like the lap car of car number 80 right there with him. That's Kenneth Michael. Michael is 1 lap down in the, where'd he go? 24 spot.
Interesting strategy is playing out at the moment. Castro, I think, did gain a little bit. I think it was about 3.5 seconds behind. But, we're seeing Castro just struggling a little bit to get up to speed. I think tyres cooling down a little bit in this extremely long pit lane. Larsen, though, somebody that isn't struggling one bit, again has a gargantuan lead over Brian Long, just like he did 1 week ago. So Larsen just lapping away at the moment. I mean, 21 seconds ahead. A new personal best for him last time by for good measure. Larsen might not have the pace that he did 1 week ago. Long is actually a tenth quicker in terms of their fastest laps, but Larsen just having that consistency. And that's, you know, when we get into these sort of hour-long races, that's all that matters, isn't it, Mike?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the hour-long races are almost a sprint endurance race. It's a little bit different than running a full 6, 12, or 24-hour race, but it's a different strategy than just a little sprint race of a 30, 40 minute. It's just a completely different animal. People don't understand the big difference between just an extra 20 minutes, but it's going to be a huge game plan difference between all these guys.
Really, I really am looking forward to this one. You know, 28 minutes gone so far. We've got half an hour to go. I'm really looking forward to the end of the race. I think it's going to be one of those races where it sort of branches out. All of the different drivers and the strategy sort of branch out, and it's only going to really come together at the end of the race. Will Coffrey, at the moment, he's in 6th place, some 30 seconds off Larsen in the lead. We saw Larsen fuel saving into Lecombe, so seems like, at least in Larsen's mind, this is a fuel saving race. Not sure what Will Coffrey is doing, but last lap of 2 minutes 6. Sorry, Will Coffrey, do apologize to Will. So, you know, he's, 2 minutes 6 last lap. Not the quickest. Wonder if he's encountered some form of traffic or had some form of issue, because that's not the pace that Will has been running so far. Got a little bit of traffic through the Fania chicane coming into campus. I was going to say he's not going to be able to get past him, but down the inside goes Coffey. So thinks that is a valid move. Great job by Coffey. I was looking at that, Mike, and thinking, well, he can't make that because, you know, that's a little bit risky, but Coffey really, really sure about his moves at the moment, and that's exactly what you need to be as an LMP2 driver.
Yeah, especially when you're following a guy, you know, you follow him for a few turns, you kind of see where he's going to go, and you realize, you know, well, you hope that he sees that you're there, and then when you make a move like that, you hope that they understand that you're going to be there and just give you that space. But looking at the timing and scoring right now, I was noticing back in the 4th spot of the GT3 class, we're currently showing Jeremy Bucci in the 73 car. Jeremy has jumped up 20 spots right now. He's in the 7th spot. From the starting grid of 27th, he's all the way up into the 7th spot, which is a great move for Jeremy right now. Gets a little high coming through Pouan right there, but looks like he's having a great race right now, able to jump up so many places.
Yeah, I mean, superb effort by Jeremy. You're right. Went wide at Pouan, and you know, if anybody's been around the iRacing space, they'll know about, you know, Spa having quite strict off tracks. And now I do believe it's something like it's 17 incidents and then you get a drive-through penalty. So, you know, Jeremy would have undoubtedly taken a 1x there for going off the track. Do you think that by the end of the race, we're going to see drivers having to sort of reduce their pace just a little bit to make sure that they don't encounter these off tracks? Because, you know, as we've been saying, the drive-through here is so long that it's going to really, really hurt your race. So do you think that, you know, as time goes on, this is going to become a really strategic race, not only with fuel? Actually, Jeremy goes very deep into the bus stop. That's going to allow Stange at least to have a little bit of luck. He's going to go all the way around the outside. And Brandon, Bjorn Strange, I should say, up now into 7th place. Bushi down to 8th. Now under pressure from Brandon Johnson. Johnson has a look down the inside. In fact, it's Bushi that thinks that he might be able to get past Stange. They're all on as even as we head on the exit of turn 1. Johnson looking to try and get past the Mercedes. Not really going to find a way through the Eau Rouge Radeon section unless you're feeling particularly brave. We're riding on board with Brandon Johnson up the hill. He's going to have an absolutely mega run on both of these cars. He's got the double slipstream, but that Mercedes power just helping out the two Mercs up ahead of him. Johnson not really gaining. He's going to have to do it all under braking. In fact, Solomon now is getting involved in the action as well. Solomon goes around the outside into Lecombe. So Johnson has gone from looking like he was attacking the two cars ahead to losing a position. Solomon now up into 9th, Bushi 8th, Stange 7th, and Johnson demoted to 10th place, Mike.
Yeah, that's a crazy section right there, and I thought Brandon was just playing the defense line on the inside and just waiting for a dive bomb move like that, but Jared came out of nowhere and jumped up. But see, as we're talking about the X, you see Brandon go off the track right there, and every time I see one of these guys go off, it's like a little bell in the back of your head. There's one, there's two. So these guys really got to start watching their count because we're just barely halfway into this race. 30 to 33 minutes down. We still have 27 minutes still to go, and like we were falling around with Jeremy a minute ago, and I saw him go through 2 turns, and I saw him get 2 X's, right, 1 in a row, and then he went into the chicane, and then there was another one. So they're going to add up really quick.
Yeah, they certainly will. I think it's one to keep an eye on. As a viewer, you can kind of get a sense the timing tower, their number will go red when our software detects that they've gone off the track. And while that isn't always a really good measure, it certainly gives a good indication. Actually, Solomon almost being forced out wide there by Shane Larson. Larson, the race leader, coming through, dives to the inside, in fact, of the Mercedes, can't find a way through. He's going to have to back out of that one. He'll get both of the cars up ahead of him into turn 1, or at least I think he will. Larson didn't have the best exit out of the burst stop. It's going to be a little bit more of a diving move. Larson, though, such as the gap that he's got up to 25 seconds now, feels that it's not worth the risk, so just eases by the Mercedes up ahead. Luke Mann been into the pits. I think that's his 3rd pit appearance, I should say. So Luke Mann really not having a race to remember around the Spa Francorchamps circuit. In fact, there he is, the number 82 car just enters the frame as Larson goes through. Larson, I mean, we saw it one week ago at Balal, didn't we, Mike? As soon as he gets the lead, he just has this knack of extending and being consistent. He can deal with traffic so well. I mean, he almost reminds me of Sebastian Vettel in that way. Once he's got the lead, it's really difficult for somebody to get it off him.
He's real consistent. That's what I've noticed over the last couple of races. Like you were saying, it's like lap after lap after lap. He just turns the same lap time. It may not always be the fastest lap time, but when he's turning a 206 the last lap, which is a slower lap because he was in traffic, but his best lap right now is a 202.6. And if you're able to turn just a high 202 to a low 203 every single lap, and you're still going faster than, let's say, Aubrey Kundal on the 2nd spot, whose fastest lap right now is a 203.5. If you're able to still get laps underneath that and consistently be able to do it, you're just going to pull away from the field, as we've seen. He's got a full 23-second advantage, and he's lapping cars right now just at will. So I mean, he's doing a masterful job out in this track.
Yes, Carlos Lopez Jr. car we haven't seen too much today. He's actually up 4 places from his starting position. So Carlos really having a quiet but great race coming up through Radion onto the back straight. Nobody ahead of him, so he's not going to gain the benefit of the slipstream, but not being chased. So, Mike, I think we've all been in sort of races like this, especially, as you get into the longer, more endurance type. As a driver, when you have to, when there's nobody around you, how do you sort of manage that? Do you, will the driver do something different? Do they start sort of focusing on one particular thing to keep them, to stop them, I should say, from being distracted? Like, how do you approach it? Because, it's not the wall-to-wall action that you might get if you were sort of closer to another car.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's so hard to run an endurance race like this and be running by yourself. What I do is I'll have a delta up on the screen, and I just chase my delta and try to stay in the green everywhere around that. That'll keep you sharp. But when you don't have other cars around you, you don't know how fast you're really going. There's been times in race in an hour stint that I barely pass, one car the entire hour, and it's so hard to be able to keep your pace and keep going. But as we change over to the GT3 class right now, this has been an incredible battle for the last 5 minutes. You've got Jared Solomon in the 9th spot, all over that back bumper of Jeremy Bucci in the 73 car. And then in the 7th spot, you got Born Stange, just, has a rear view mirror full of a Mercedes and a Ferrari. And right not too far back behind Jared is Brandon Johnson. We saw Brandon earlier get passed by Jared. and then Riley Dunn not too far back. So, I mean, you've got, what, 6 cars all in a row with Billy Bowerman back there as well, sneaking in there in that 12th spot. So, I mean, you got a 6-way battle right now for the 7th through 12th spot. Billy Bowerman going on the inside, taking over that spot. Oh, and it looked like Riley getting a little blink going on. Luckily, that didn't throw Billy off when he went into that inside spot on him.
And Riley Dunn wide through Puon, disconnected into there. Had the worst possible sector I think you could possibly have. He's still on the track at the very least, but Billy Bowerman, I mean, superb job by him. He's up 13 places in his class, up to 11th place now. 1.5 seconds or so to 10th place, which is Brandon Johnson. But there, you know, as you rightly pointed out, Mike, they're squabbling around at the moment, so keep an eye on that. Have a look at Brandon Johnson at the moment, actually coming a little bit adrift from that Solomon Bushi stage battle. But Johnson, one of our only Audi drivers, in fact, I think he is the only Audi on track. So it's nice to see a little bit of variety in the GT3 classes. Johnson, though, decides that he wants to come into the pits. This will be his second fuel stop. I think our first driver to come into the pits for a second time. It's not anything to do with damage. So Johnson sort of pulling the pin earlier than everybody else. Is that going to be an undercut? We'll have to see. Bowerman getting past Dunn as well. What has happened to Bushi? He is not moving at the moment, Mike. So Jeremy Bushi, the Mercedes driver, he did so well, and I don't think at the moment he's moving on track. So yeah, Jeremy Bushi are not found on our timing screen. So I think Bushi must have had some form of issue, Mike. And again, that'll be absolutely heartbreaking for him.
Yeah, it is gut-wrenching when you're racing and you see the disconnected or the packet lost error message. It's just, you know, especially when you're running and you're feeling good, you're running the top 10, and then something just disconnects you from a race. I've known Will Coffey was out in front of a race, in control of a race one time, and his router got shut off, and he just completely disconnected with a lap to go. And it's just, I mean, heartbreaking for people like that. But right now you're watching Joshua Benjamin in the 12th spot, kind of running out there by himself and running that Lamborghini. Not very many Lambos running right now. I see probably about 2 in there right now. So, but good to see Joshua out there in the 12th spot. It's a good run for him right now. He's had a rough season so far, but not too far back behind him is Dominic Angelico in the 112 Mercedes. This field is definitely built up of Mercedes as the primary car for a lot of guys, and then the BMWs would probably be the next one. Running through the field right behind him, about 6 seconds back, is Brett in the 912 car, and Brett is up 12 spots from his starting spot. So that's a great move to get up there, starting from about the 26th spot, and you're running in the 14th spot, or on scoring on the car, it says 16. But it's been a great move for Brett so far.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like we're seeing sort of 2 stories, or 2 different sets of stories, I should say. The drivers that have really almost mastered this track, had a little bit of luck as well, and drivers that, you know, either have had, you know, internet issues or hardware issues, or just been really unlucky. So, excuse me, it seems like we're going to have, you know, a big mix-up in the championship points. Currently having a look at Jake Luther being caught by Braden Carroll at the moment. Carroll almost bumper to bumper through Blanchimont corner, backs off as we head into the braking zone. Luther just has to find the apex. He does successfully. They both stay out for another lap. Not many of the GT3 runners choosing to come into the pits at the moment. Braden Carroll, a little bit surprised there, in fact, Mike. I was expecting him to do the do whatever he doesn't do strategy. If Luther was to stay out, why didn't Braden just come in, roll the dice, stop a lap earlier, see if he can get the undercut? Actually, before I switch to you, Mike, I think Braden's carrying a little bit of damage. That side pod of that Mercedes not looking particularly fresh.
Yeah, that left front corner does look a little damaged on it, but he has still moved up 14 spots from the starting grid. So he has been on the move, and that may have been during, you know, passing some of the cars. He may have bumped into somebody, or you know, you never know where that is. But it is a great battle right now between Jake Luther and Braden Carroll. One little side note, since we were talking about Dominic Angelico, who's 2 spots ahead of these guys, something about Dominic is he doesn't have I don't know if you knew this, but he doesn't have any use in his legs. So all his controls is by the hand throttle and a handbrake, as well as the steering wheel. I've seen a picture in one of the discords of his setup that he's got, and it's pretty amazing to think that Dominique has been able to race as fast as he does with all these hand controls, and still able to keep pace with these guys, and you know, give them the money's worth.
I mean, that's incredible. Always love to hear stories about that. People that, you know, that's why I love sim racing. It can be a really inclusive space, and you know, there's all these sort of adaptations that are coming into the sim racing world. It seems like there's more every day. I mean, supreme job by Dominic and Jalico. I'm really glad you told me that. I did not know, but that's a nice feel-good story. Rodriguez, I'm under pressure from Robinson at the moment. Is he? No, in fact, I do believe that's a lapped car. So Rodriguez going to be lapped around the outside. I think that's fourth place man, Christian Gritzko. Gritzko gets past. Rodriguez not going to force the issue. Pulls in to the slipstream. The Gritzko now lapping the 23 car, currently in 21st place. Rodriguez, though, catching up to Lilac Zer. Zer a little bit caught off guard, I think, by Gritzko getting past. This is a great opportunity for the Porsche driver. Lilac Zer just having to defend the inside line through Bruxelles. We're going to stamp on the throttle before quickly applying the brakes once again through No Name Corner, which actually has many different names. X Station, you can name them all, but a corner name that is certainly not in dispute is this one, Pouon Corner, the quick left-hander. Lilac just got so much more pace at the moment through Pouon. Seems like Rodriguez is just struggling a little bit with the weight transfer of that Porsche 911 RSR. Lilac, though, a little bit wide through the Fania chicane. Maybe the dirty air spilling or boiling off the back end of Gritzko's car, not helping her. As we head through campus, through Stavolo, onto the back straight. Who's going to have the better straight line speed? Who's feeling a little bit braver on the exit of Stavolo? Looks fairly even for both of our drivers. Zer, in fact, going to get a little bit of a toe off Gritzko. So Gritzko, I think, helping at the moment. Lilac Zer, or at least is helping her now. Not sure she'd agree with him helping him out so much at the earlier stages of the lap at the Lacombe chicane. Onto the brakes we go. I think Duda into the pits. Matthew Duda are one of our highest drivers to come into the pits as well. Grisco comes in as well. Hall, Castro both continue for another lap. Duda and Gritzko have decided that this is the time to come into the pits, get some more fuel and go to the end. 50 minutes left to go in this race. And Mike, I'm going to put you in the impossible position. If you were Castro at the moment, what do? Do you stay out as much as you want? Do you follow Hall and just sort of consolidate the second place? Or do you try something really crazy? You know, stick on a set of tyres, for instance. Just do anything to try and win this race.
Well, if you put on tires, it's just going to take too long. It's another extra 30 seconds in your pit stop. But at the pace that Agustin has, you look at the two things. He's had a bad season so far, so this is a great job to be up in the second spot. Sit in that second spot, take your points, and don't do anything too crazy. Or do you go for that win, go for that prize money, and try to take that win by doing something crazy? You never know. In my opinion, I would just stay safe and I would just hold on to that second spot. And if you get a chance to close in on Justin and maybe get tied up in some lap traffic or make a simple mistake, then you have a chance to pounce on him.
To correct the record, Lilac Zia, sorry, Lilac Zia, do apologise for mispronouncing your name. Brian Long, the LMP2 field, coming under pressure at the moment from Southwell. Jamie Southwell was once the inhabitant of second and third places, but not really shining at the moment. Has Long been into the pits for a third time? No, he hasn't. So Long had that, I mean, almost like he attached rocket boosters to the back of that Dallara-built LMP2 car, but those have since stopped working, and he's slowly fallen down the field, and now Southwell trying to get past him at the present time. Long through No Name Corner. A little bit of traffic up ahead of this battle on McLaren and a few LMP2s as well for good measure. I think that might be a Coffee and Justin, the 419 car. Well, Coffee, you can see at the moment coming into the Fania chicane. trying to get past Barrera. Barrera, I mean, he's had sort of a tale of two races. Barrera, I mean, he had a good start. He was up in you know, in second place at one point, sort of fell down the order, but slowly Mike been working his way back up and is currently looking for fourth place. And, you know, if anything happens with the top three, he could be looking for an even better result.
Yeah, but if he keeps looking too far ahead, he's going to miss out on that Will Coffey closing that gap. Will is definitely closing in on him coming down that back straightaway. And as they come into the chicane right now, Will is just closing that gap. And he over brakes, and he was afraid of tagging into the back of him. So he ended up pulling off to the side and just going to lose all that momentum that he just had. And now Will Coffey's got a whole rearview mirror full of Brian Long and Jamie Southwell. So it was a big mistake for Will Coffey to just ride the brakes that far in and get locked up and lose a full second and a half or so coming into that chicane. But it's still a great battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. I mean, that's the closest battle right now in the LMP class. The best battles of the days are still looking to be in the GT3 class. And, I mean, all these classes have been just awesome all day long.
They have. Keith in the YouTube chat makes a really good point. This race has been cleaner than Belle 1 week ago, and thankfully, to be honest, especially as us commentators didn't have a voice, I don't think, for a few days after Belle Isle. Justin Barrera just lapping away. Stephen Koshko has been into the pit, so we are now seeing all of our GT3 runners come into the pit. Justin Hall, we should mention, has already been into the pit, so he has served all of the pit stops that he needs to do to get to the end of the race. Castro did go 1 lap later, so Castro trying to out-strategize our race leader, Justin Hall, but I don't think that's going to pull off for him once again. Hall just had a little bit more pace, but, you know, we've still got 11 minutes of racing to go, so anything can, and to be honest, anything will happen. We saw that 1 week ago at Belle Isle, and I'm sure we'll see exactly the same here at the Curcuit de Spa Francorchamps today. Matthew Duda, though, he came into the pits early and actually benefited from that. I think Koshko was the loser. I don't think Duda was up into 3rd place. So Matthew in the 103 Mercedes doing a great job, really thinking sort of outside the strategic box, and it's working for him at the moment. And actually, our top Mercedes car, this is Justin Hall, so currently says that he's in 2nd place, but Castro is in the pit, so I think he'll be reclaiming his race lead as we head around to start another lap. Hall just about to come through Blanchimont, a little bit of LMP2 traffic, but that swiftly gets out of the way for the number 7 car. He's going to stamp on the brakes. Just, you see a little bit of a line in the track. That's sort of the universal braking point for the GT3s. And then he has a smooth, as sweet as anything exit, in fact, out of the bus stop. And, you know, as somebody that did, you know, practice for the Spa 24, I don't think I ever had as nice of a bus stop as Justin Hall did. I mean, Hall just driving superbly at the moment. Actually, Castro now exiting the pits. Hall just coming through turn 1. What is Augustine Castro going to do? I think he might take the lead here, Mike. And if that's so, that's an amazing strategic call, because Castro was behind Hall at one point. Castro is going to come out in the lead. The gap is closing down. That's not the car, as you saw a flicker. That's a McLaren. That's lapped traffic. There you see Justin Hall. Hall now gapping Castro by about 5 seconds. So I'm trying to work out here, Mike, Castro 6 seconds quicker in the pit box. Now my question is, has Castro underfueled?
You never know. He may have been saving fuel for a couple laps and then underfueled, and is going to try to keep that pace ahead of him and then hold them off for that last ditch moment. I mean, we've got less than 9 minutes to go, so it's still it could be, anything can happen. But Agustin Castro is pretty cagey, so you never know what's going to happen. But he definitely has that 5-second lead now just after that last pit stop. It's going to be interesting to see. Like you said, this is going to be down to the end. I really think this is going to come down to that last lap. Is somebody going to run out of fuel? Is there going to be tied up in lap traffic? It could be anything right now, because everybody is so spread out on the track right now. You never know what's going to happen on the end here. But Justin Hall is going to just do everything he can to close that gap. I mean, Justin has a faster hot lap with a 2:16.7, where Augustine was a 2:17.1. But with these tires getting fully warmed up now, and you start getting lighter loads of fuel, you might see some more hot laps coming in from these guys towards the end.
All going to be about whether Castro has got enough fuel to finish the race, whether he has to do a little bit of fuel saving in the lead. I'm fairly certain that Hall is going to have no worries about that whatsoever. He can go and drive as hard and as fast as he would like. Castro, on the other hand, I am not sure. I mean, just to sort of add to Justin Hall's woes, he's got lapped traffic in between himself and Augustine Castro. So it's not as simple as just being able to catch up to the back of Castro and overtaking. He's got to get past another car, and there is no guarantee that the McLaren is simply going to just sort of get out of the way of Hall. There's no rules in iRacing that say that as soon as the faster car comes behind you, you have to jump out of the way. It's not like Formula One or single seaters in that respect. So Hall, with it all to do at the moment, and Mike, I think we've probably all been in the situations where you thought that you've had a race win. You know, you thought that it was done and dusted, you had the gap, and something's happened. It can be so hard from the cockpit to sort of maintain your balance and your rhythm and just sort of calm down and keep your cool, because you could start overdriving the car, and at that point, you know, there's no chance of you regaining the lead again.
Well, especially in that case, you're Justin Hall, you're out in front, you're lapping around, and you're just pulling away, and then all of a sudden somebody comes out of the pits and they jump over you in an overcut, and it's like, how did that happen? And then you have to regain your composure and just put your head down and just start driving your race again, because like you said, if you start overdriving it, you're going to start overheating your tires, and then your lap times are going to start falling, and it's just not going to help your race at all. So to be able to get back in and start closing in on Agustin, he just needs to gather himself and start running his laps again, and he should be able to reel him back in. But it looks like Castro's already pulling away to a 6-second advantage, so he's gained a full second this last lap. But right now you got Christian Gritzko, the winner from last week, in the 4th spot with his sights set on Matthew Juder in that Merc as they're coming into the campus area in Save-A-Lot. Christian's going to be pushing real hard to try to finish that podium position and keep that momentum going from Detroit.
Yeah, not only will it be another Gritzko podium, but we'll actually have all three of our podium cities in GT3 will be BMWs if Gritzko can get past Duda. So, you know, it does seem like the BMWs are just the dominant car at the moment around this circuit. It was the same, in fact, for the Spa 24 hours until iRacing adjusted the balance of performance, and that sort of swung the race in favor of the Mercedes. But the BMWs just seems to be the class of the field at the moment. LMP2, though, you don't need to worry about balance of performance. They're all the same car, and you just get some really, really good close racing. Aubrey Kundal, though, not necessarily proving that point at the moment. A little bit in no man's land. 3 seconds to the car ahead and about 8 to the car behind. So Aubrey just lapping away, counting down the minutes until the race is over and you can collect those well-earned points. Barrera, in fact, is the car trying to chase them down at the moment, but as I said, 8 seconds, I don't think gonna change anything, or I should say Barrera not going to be able to catch 8 seconds unless sort of a mistake from Kundal, but you never know. We've seen the race lead, we've seen positions change so far this race, and I'm sure we're going to see a few more twists and turns in the next 4 minutes of racing. Augustine Castro, you're right, Mike. The gap now up to 6.7 seconds. So Castro is now finding the pace. And, you know, I wonder if he's simply just quicker because he's got less fuel on board. Fuel really does affect your lap times. The less fuel you have, the less weight you carry, and simply the faster you go. So the only sort of threat to Castro's race lead that I can see at the moment is if he's just going to run out of fuel. And we're not really going to know that until the end of the race.
Yeah, he was just playing games with them earlier and just pacing along with them and knowing that he had the pace to beat him. I mean, Castro was your pole sitter, so he had the pace the whole time. So maybe he was just sitting back and just saving his tires for this last stint, and where he's able to just start pulling away. But you got out in front in the LMP class, kind of a ho-hum day for Shane Larson. He stretched it out to a 23-second advantage right now on Aubrey Kundal, and he's just on a casual Tuesday night drive right now. as he was last week. He's just keeping it between the walls and staying away from cars. And Shane is gonna on his way to take the second win in a row. I mean, it's been a pretty impressive 2-week span for Shane Larson.
I think that Shane's going to realise that there was a race going on behind him, or do you think he's in some sort of very elaborate private test session? Because you're right, Larson, I mean, he sort of saw off the battle. You know, at the start of the race, he was battling Arnold at the start, but ever since Arnold had that issue and left the scene, I mean, he's you know, no longer part of the race. You know, he's been unchallenged, and then, you know, we didn't quite catch it, but the first pit stop for him, he just nailed it, got the gap, and, you know, hasn't really had to push that much. He's just been sort of consistently lapping away, just maintaining that 20-22 second lead. Larson, you know, supreme job once again. You're right, it'll be his second race win in a row. Didn't get the pole this time, but I don't think he'll really mind too much. Larson, top of the hill, cuts a little bit of the inside line at Radeon. That can give you a 1x, but I don't think Larson's got anything to worry about there. Down the back straight we go. 1 minute and 40 seconds left to go in this race. Coffee sets a new personal best for him. Last time by 2 minute 3.5. Some 9/10 quicker, in fact, than fourth place man Justin Barrera. Barrera actually now behind Coffee, so Coffee now up into third place. And now I might be showing my lack of memory here, Mike, but wasn't Barrera in fourth a minute ago? So actually, I tell you what, we'll finish that thought in a minute. Barrera now on the outside, flashing his lights, trying to distract the driver up ahead. Barrera now takes the position right round the outside into Lacombe. Coffee now down into fourth place. Southwell also gets past Long, I think, to the exact same section of the track that we just saw Justin Barrera make the move. Barrera up into third place again. Coffee down to fourth. And as I said, Mike, I might be showing my lack of memory here, but I thought that we were seeing Barrera sort of racing for fourth place. So I'm quite surprised that Barrera's up into third, unless I'm completely and utterly mistaken.
Well, earlier we were watching them running, and I think it was about fourth, fifth, sixth, and it was Justin and Will battling it out then when Will overbraked a little bit coming into the chicane and fell back a little bit. So it was good to see Will get back into the close on him. But as we're running out on time, is this going to be their white flag, or are they going to get by for one more, depending on where Shane is at?
Oh, Shane is just about to cross the line. Don't see any checkered flag, so Larson, 1 lap to go. This will undoubtedly be the final lap for your race leader. That was great timing, Mike, and Ian as well. We're just about to talk about when it's going to be the white flag, and there we go. We've seen Shane Larson take it. So this is Larson's final lap. All he has to do is keep it on the track, you have to say. The gap is now 23 seconds, so not really much that Shane Larson has to do, as I said, other than keeping it on the black stuff. A little bit of traffic up ahead of him, but this is the fight that we want to have a look at. Barrera third, Coffee in fourth. Southwell a little bit out of this fight at the moment, some sort of 6 seconds off the back, but you know, if this starts getting spicy, if this is sort of reminiscent of 2008, the Belgian Grand Prix, where it all just unfolded and unraveled for Kimi Räikkönen and Lewis Hamilton, anything can happen around Spa. 4-mile circuit, 7 kilometers around here. One of the longest laps that you can do in iRacing. Only Le Mans in sort of the Nürburgring are longer, so it's certainly not done and dusted for the final place on the podium. Coffee, a little bit of traffic. Actually, he's got an Audi GT3 in between him and Barrera, and just caught up behind the Audi through Lacombe. And I was saying, you know, it's a long lap and anything can happen, but that gap is just building and building between Will Coffee in third and Justin Barrera in... Sorry, Will Coffey in fourth and Justin Barrera in third. And again, Coffey just being impeded a little bit by traffic. This time the Mercedes doesn't have to give up the position into no name, but I think Mike Coffey unable to catch up to Barrera unless Barrera makes some form of driving error.
Yeah, that was just a brutal gut shot right there, and it's going to knock him back quite a way. So we're back with our leader, Shane Larson, coming through that final chicane and coming up to what we know as turn 1, La Source. He still has to get around La Source to come across to that checkered flag. And let's follow our leader as he comes up here, blinking his lights to let that lap car know that he was coming in. And coming into that turn 1 and through La Source and down the pit lane straight, your winner in the LMP class, Shane Larson, coming down the straightaway with another masterful job of taking the win 2 weeks in a row. But Seb, let's go back to the GT3 class. Let's see if we got something going on here.
Castro still in the lead. In fact, Hall has taken the checkered flag. So Castro, I mean, at this point, he can run out of fuel. He can do whatever he wants. Castro, in theory, has to do another lap, but Castro is your race winner. Augustine with that superb fuel strategy, 3 seconds quicker in the pit box. And as I said, Justin Hall already taken the checkered flag, so he was lapped by Larson. Larson was just a little bit behind Castro. So Castro, I mean, he doesn't have to complete the lap, to be honest. I mean, he will if he can, because why wouldn't you? It's almost like a victory lap for Augustine Castro. Through no name, he goes, runs a little bit wide. But as I said, it's just like Shane Larson. He doesn't really have to do a lot at the moment. Just keep it on the black stuff, and he will undoubtedly win the GT3 class. And actually, this is a great opportunity because we could talk about it while he's finishing his lap, Mike. You know, I was saying he's going to have to do something if he wants to win this race. I was asking you, you know, if he was going to concede and just go for second place, but he had this really audacious strategy. It's worked out perfectly for him, and he's almost sort of brought victory out of the clutches of defeat.
No, he did a masterful job. As we were talking earlier about being strategic and being able to you know to be so strategic on this track because of its size. Augustine did just a fantastic job. We'll have to ask him during his interview to what he did to overcut him so well in that last pit stop. We'll have to find out when we go into the interviews.
Yeah, really excited to talk to our drivers. And of course, if you are a driver and you want to come in for an interview, come in and have a chat with us. Always nice to hear from the competitors. Everybody now just sort of coming across the line. That was Lilac Zia coming across the line. Billy Bowerman takes 19th place, so unable to get that 18th place that he was chasing down a few laps ago. And there's a little bit of a car park into turn 1. I see a few celebratory donut marks, so our race winners clearly celebrating their race wins. Augustine Castro now is your confirmed race GT3 winner. And here are your race results. As we were saying, Shane Larson wins in the LMP2 field, some 23 seconds separating him and Aubrey Condell in second place. Justin Barrera is in third. That rounds out your LMP2 podium. Will Coffey is in fourth. Jamie Southwell in fifth. Brian Long in sixth. Samuel Michel in seventh place. Carlos Lopez Jr. in eighth. He's at 4 places. Great race by him. Tyler Davala in ninth and Luke Mann in 10th place. Although Luke Mann, our pole sitter, finishes 2 laps off the lead in the end. Augustine Castro takes the GT3 race win. Superb strategy by him. Justin Hall will have to settle for second place. Matthew Duda in third. Christian Gritzko just outside the podium. He's in 4th place. Stephen Koshko in 5th with Diogo Air in 6th. Jared Solomon 7th with Bjorn Stange in 8th place. Brandon Johnson 9th with Riley Dunn in 10th. Joshua Benjamin 11th with Dominic Angelico in 12th. Brayden Carroll 13th. Jake Luther in 14th. Brett DiGiacomo 15th. Eric Letsky in 16th place. Chris Farr 17th. Lilac Zia in 18th. Billy Bowerman 19th place. Eric Rodriguez in 20th place, I should say, with Andrew Chorachetsky just outside the top 20. He's in 21st. Jack Robinson 22nd. Bradley Alvis 23rd. Andrew Jadaric in 24th place. Jay Fuller 25th. Kenneth Michael 26th. Jeremy Bruchy in 27th. He'll be absolutely gutted with that race result. Colin Arnold was unfortunately out of the race early on. Nick Edby as well. Gary Schilling also a retirement, and Kevin Medea didn't make it a full lap. So,
Steph, you all right there, buddy?
I'm almost all right. It's long grid.
No, awesome work. But before we get into our introductions, our race interviews, let's go over the hot lap for Into the Apex.
So our fastest lap of the LMP2 field was Brian in long, I do believe, with a 2-minute 2.5 seconds. Actually, no, I take it back. It was Luke Mann, wasn't it? With a 2-minute 1.96. Do apologise there. I'm still recovering from the grid.
And then in the GT3 class, your hot lap for the GT3 class is going to go to Justin Hall with a 2:16.72. A couple great laps from those guys. A tough break for Luke Mann. Not sure what happened. We'll have to find out in Discord on that. But let's go ahead and bring in your LMP class winner, Shane Larson, in. Seb, go ahead and take him.
Right, let's have a chat to Shane Larson. Welcome once again to the commentary booth. 2 race wins from 2 races, back-to-back race wins. Looked a little bit harder than 1 week ago at Belle Isle, but still, I mean, you were the class of the field, some 23 seconds separating yourself and second place.
Yeah, I mean, had another big gap like last week. This one, I do have to say, it was a little bit. It wasn't so much pace, but just everything was kicking off behind me, and I was just cruising along. I knew I had to save a lot this race. I did a lot of practice to make sure that I could get a good strategy down, and yeah, because it was in between a 3 and a 2 stop, so I didn't know if people were going to go all out. And so that first stint, the first couple laps with was it Colin Arnold and a couple other people? We were all fighting up at the top, and we weren't really saving. So I was like, I guess we're going, but so I was kind of up in the air. But then everything was just happening behind me, and I just really, once again, just like last week, just tried to keep it safe and just race my own race.
I mean, it certainly worked out for you. I was going to ask you, it was Colin Arnold that was one of your main competitors, and we saw you at the start of the race, sort of almost swapping the race lead, sort of almost understanding that one of you's got the lead while the other one can save a little bit of fuel, sort of working together. Was that the plan, or were you just simply just trying to get in the lead and overtake your rival?
I think at the start, with me inheriting pole, which is kind of unfortunate for Luke, that was kind of sad. But uh, inheriting pole, I kind of wanted to just stay in front, get away, made sure they didn't have the draft to save, but they did, and so I think we worked together, but we didn't mean to. But I mean, I'll take it. I guess it kind of worked out. So yeah.
I mean, it did in the end, and sorry, you mentioned that it was having to fuel save. Was that your main limitation around here? Was it all about the fuel saving? Did you have to manage the tires as well, or was it fairly simple once you got into the lead?
Fuel saving was definitely the name of the game today. You had to save into pretty much every braking zone except maybe no name, and you had to do that the whole race. I think the last stint, um, just me being conservative, I saved, but I didn't have to. That last stint, I could have gone flat out in case I needed to fight anyone, but wasn't the case. And then tires were falling off towards the end. I definitely had to mess around with the brakes a little, but tires weren't terrible.
Well, I mean, superb drive by yourself around Spa 1 week, and then we're at Daytona. Do you think you could make it 3 wins from 3 races?
I mean, I'm not a cocky person, but I definitely think a win is on the cards. I love Daytona. I'm super quick there. It's one of my favorite top 5 tracks on all of the service. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
And before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all on the broadcast?
Um, Once again, my team, Sim Racing Development, got to be in the chat with them tonight, talking strategy and practicing with them. And then the Wrong Stuff guys. I mean, you all are awesome guys. You put on a great league, and yeah, looking forward to next week and the rest of the season. So yeah, thanks guys.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming to talk with us. Always lovely to have a chat with you, Shane, our LMP2 race winner. Congratulations. We will see you in 1 week's time as we head to Daytona.
Thanks guys. See you then.
And Mike, if you manage to find our GT3 race winner anywhere.
I think I have him. Let's go ahead and bring in the GT3 class winner, Agustin Castro. First off, Agustin, congratulations on what I can just call a masterful win. We were calling, I've raced with you in multiple leagues and had some great fights with you. And we were calling during the race that we were wondering what you were going to do, if you're going to play the safe strategy or what you were going to do. And how in the world did you just piggyback him on that one pit stop by 5 seconds?
Hey, thank you. Yeah, it was all safe fuel and that. Uh, I left I left Justin take P1 and then save fuel behind him, and and that's all I think.
Did you fill up your tank completely on the last stop, or did you short fill that?
Um, First I didn't know if it was enough fuel, but then I realized that the fuel that I got calculated was um, for if the LMP1 passed me and he didn't catch me before in the last lap, and yeah, after that I was really really confident on my on the amount of fuel that I got.
No, you did a great job. You set pole in the GT3 class. It's good to see you have a good week. You've had some really rough weeks so far with some incidents and crashes and falling down the order. But it's great to see you out front. Did you feel real confident coming to this race, or you just practiced from the 24-hour race?
Yeah, I was pretty confident because of the 24 hours race. There I learned how to save fuel, a lot of fuel. Uh, Will Coffee told me how the theory, let's say, and I just applied it.
You did a great job. You know, we've got 4 more races in this league. Is there a track coming up that you look into and say, I feel good and confident coming into the next race? Do you know which one?
No, I don't know when is the next one.
Daytona will be the next race next week. How do you feel about that? And we'll be racing at night too, so it's going to be under the lights. So how do you feel about running Daytona at night?
Oh, I really like Daytona. Um, I raced um, two, I think, 24 hours
Hmm.
at Daytona, and so yeah, this time I will practice more.
Awesome. So, would you like to say thank you to anybody that's watching or anything? You could do it in your home language if you would like. That make it a little easier for you. It's your turn.
No, special thanks to my team. They always support me, and we work together to improve lap times, and it is amazing.
Awesome. Congratulations, Augustine. I'm proud to say that I've raced with you, and it's good to see you out front and taking the win today.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. That was our winner in the GT3 class, Agustin Castro. Like we said, he played that pit strategy game and was able to pull it off. But it sounded like Shane Larson's feeling a little froggy for next week's race in Daytona.
Yeah, it certainly is. It'll be really interesting to see if he, can continue his form. Daytona, it's going to be all about the slipstream. So, if Shane Larson can do what he's done in the last 2 races and get that gap and, not be within slipstream range, he's got a really good chance of winning. But somehow I doubt that it's going to be as easy as it maybe has been in the last 2. Certainly one to tune in for next week. But before we end the broadcast, Mike, how do you sum up that race? I mean, it was so enthralling.
I think we were talking about it the entire time, all strategy, strategy, strategy. I'm sure the listeners were just tired of hearing her talk about strategy, but you know what? GT3 came down to a strategy win. Agustin Castro played the game. He fuel saved. He just sat there and just waited for his chance. Came in and came out in front on that last pit stop and just pulled away at the end. So he was obviously saving tires, saving fuel for that first 2 stints, and then he got that third stint and said, "It's go time, let's go." And he definitely laid it down. So it was good to see him out front.
Strategy, strategy, strategy. Well, if that was Spa, I'm sure that Daytona will be exactly the same. We'll be back at the same time next week, 40-minute race around Daytona. Thank you very much to Ian Fisher in the production booth, Mike Braun alongside me, and thank you everybody for tuning in. As I said, we'll be back in 1 week's time as the Wrong Stuff Racing lead heads once again over the channel to Daytona.